When I petitioned for a divorce, the Empress Dowager granted it immediately. Stunned, I looked up. She too had been reborn. Main text: the searing agony of arrows piercing my body still burned in my marrow. I snapped awake, only to find myself back at the palace banquet where Shurche, hand in hand with Li Wan, closed in relentlessly. The chill from the frontier clung to his black iron armor, yet his tone was colder than the glaciers of the northern frontier. The Meng family is of lowly birth. They are unworthy of holding the rightful position in the general's mansion. In my past life, clinging to the last shred of lingering affection, I knelt tearfully, begging him to remember our marriage. But this time, bone-gnawing hatred drove me to beat him to the punch. Before he could finish, I bowed my head to the floor. Having been married to the general's household for 3 years without bearing an heir, I have indeed failed in my duty. If the general has designs on the princess, I beg you to find a more suitable match. I only ask for a divorce decree, so as not to hinder your future. The hall erupted in commotion. Clinking wine cups fell silent as stares pierced my back like needles. Suddenly, a thunderous clap echoed from behind the beaded curtain. The Empress Dowager's voice rang out with authority. This divorce is granted. Draft the imperial decree at once. General Wei and the princess are to be betrothed. I snapped my head up, meeting the Empress Dowager's bottomless phoenix eyes. The flash of burning hatred within them mirrored my own. She too had been reborn. 3 days later, the Empress Dowager summoned me to the palace. With all attendants dismissed, she shed her outer robe, revealing the horrifying crisscross scars across her waist, the mark of being flayed alive by Shurche's order in my past life. What Shurche owes us? Shouldn't we collect every single debt, one by one? Her fingertips traced the character Meng carved into the general's tiger token at her waist, her eyes flashing with icy fury. I raised my hand to touch the old wound on my chest, where arrows had once pierced me. My voice was as cold as ice. Demanding repayment from him alone is insufficient. We must add the heads of every dog in the Li family to make a fitting sacrifice. On the night of Shurche and Li Wan's wedding, I sent a broken sword wrapped in a bloodstained note. Through the sea of red candles, I could almost see the flickering flames reflecting the first debt of blood he owed me. And this was only the beginning. The palace banquet's music still echoed in my ears, yet I was dragged into an endless ice cellar by the horrors of my past life. That year, on the coldest snowy day in the capital, just as Shurche was about to ascend the throne, Li Wan whined for fresh fish. He ordered men to drag me to the Tay pool, chiseled through the ice with an axe, tore off my only thin garment, and hurled me into the icy hole. The bone-chilling lake water instantly submerged me up to my head. Every pore felt pierced by icy needles, my blood seemingly frozen into shards of ice. Shurche and Li Wan sat in their heated palanquin, looking down on me as I struggled. He coldly laughed, drawing his crossbow. Each arrow struck the ice beside me with precision, the splattering ice shards lacerating my face. Meng Jihua, open your eyes wide and see clearly, the Empress's throne is beyond your reach, not in this life, nor in the next. He slandered me, claiming I'd once been jealous of Li Wan and broken her leg bone. But I never committed such a vile act. I poured a decade of my life into elevating him, from a scrawny kitchen boy in the Meng household to a celebrated general with glorious military achievements. When father lay dying, he entrusted me to Meng Jihua. I cleared wasteland and gathered provisions in the rear, shielded him from assassins' poisoned blades, and even stayed by his bedside for 3 sleepless days and nights when he lay gravely wounded. Yet his reward was endless humiliation. He stripped me naked and forced me to dance, while Li Wan lit blazing red coals beneath me, compelling me to dance upon the embers, lotus blooming beneath my feet. When my personal maid, Yu Zhan, dared to speak for me, Li Wan ordered her hacked into pieces to feed the dogs. I was locked in an iron cage, punished for the slightest disobedience by kneeling in snow-covered ground, scrubbing frozen stone slabs barehanded until my fingertips turned black and oozed pus, yet I was forbidden to stop. Until he raised his army in rebellion, and overnight the imperial city was drowned in a sea of blood. Chained to a palace pillar, countless arrows pierced my body like fish meat pinned to a chopping block. My corpse was discarded in a mass grave. Amidst the mud, I stumbled upon the equally shattered remains of the Empress Dowager, only a phoenix-patterned golden hairpin and a half-piece of bright yellow phoenix robe left, silently bearing witness to the same brutal demise. "Miss, what's wrong?" Yu Zhan's voice snapped me back to reality. Gazing at her vibrant face, feeling the warmth in my palm, I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug deep into my flesh. In this life, I will make sure Che and Li Wan pay for their crimes with blood. Li Wan glided toward me in embroidered shoes adorned with intertwined lotus vines, swaying her slender waist. Her gaze swept over my pale yellow court robe stained with wine, and a blatant sneer curled her lips. So you're the Meng family girl who refuses to vacate the general's wife's position? Yu Zhan, trembling with rage beside me, lunged forward, her almond eyes wide with fury. General sure grew up in the Meng household. Our young mistress poured her heart into caring for him, guarding an empty chamber for 3 years while managing his affairs. Yet you, the moment you return, dare to usurp her place. Smack! A sharp slap echoed through the hall as Li Wan raised her hand and struck Yu Zhan across the face. The force sent Yu Zhan stumbling backward, crashing into the cold pillar. A bright red mark instantly bloomed on her forehead. You insolent servant! How dare you meddle in matters of royal blood? Li Wan flicked her wrist, a flash of venom in her eyes. Is this how the General Meng household trains its servants? To tolerate a slave defying a princess? My nails dug into my palms until they nearly drew blood. A metallic taste rose in my throat, but I forced down the urge to lunge forward and tear her fake smile from her face. Not yet. In that deathly silent moment, the Empress Dowager's voice suddenly echoed from the 9th tier, wrapped in an authority that brooked no defiance. What Lady Meng seeks is in accordance with heaven's will and the sentiments of the people. The Empress Dowager parted the beaded curtain, her blood jade ring gleaming with a deep, ominous light. Her gaze swept over the frozen Li Wan before settling on my face. To mate without a wedding, conceiving a child in secret, by the laws of our dynasty, she should be drowned in the Tay pool. Shi Che, disregarding marital bonds, is demoted to deputy general. Li Shi, who dared to confuse the imperial bloodline with a mere jade pendant, shall kneel in the Yongshou palace for 10 hours. Shi Che's face turned ashen, his clenched fists turning white at the knuckles, yet he dared not utter a word. The Empress Dowager shifted her tone, her words carrying an unquestionable resolve. Meng Shi is the only daughter of a military family and should receive the protection of the imperial house. The 17th prince, Zhao Huijin, though blind, possesses extraordinary wisdom. Are you willing to marry him? I lifted my gaze to see the legendary 17th uncle standing in the corner. Clad in moon-white brocade robes, he exuded scholarly grace and steadfastness. Though blind, he commanded an imposing presence. I knew he was the only power capable of countering Shi Che. Without hesitation, I bowed my head. This humble servant is willing. The Empress Dowager nodded with satisfaction. The marriage shall be arranged immediately. The wedding will take place tonight. Shi Che's venomous gaze pierced me, yet I felt only profound relief. This time, he was utterly powerless. As we left the palace, Shi Che followed my sedan chair on his black stallion. Suddenly, he hurled a divorce decree into the carriage, his voice as icy as frozen water. Meng Zhihua, when did your heart change? I picked up the paper, my fingertips tracing the words divorce. A cold smile curved my lips, pure as mountain snow, bright as moon in the clouds. Hearing your heart has changed, I come to sever ties. His so-called deep affection was nothing but a performance. In my past life, I foolishly believed it for 10 years. I recall how, when he lay unconscious, he murmured my childhood nickname, how he gathered mountains of flamboyant flowers for me before battle, how he kept vigil all night when I was wounded. Yet all of this was merely a facade to secure his position. Returning to the general's residence, I ordered servants to pack my belongings. Every gift from Shi Che was discarded, only the bone-splitting sword and military treatises left by my father were carried away. An old servant wiped tears from his eyes, tugging at my sleeve as he wailed, "Madam, you've managed this household with such care. You lit the most prayer lanterns during the Lantern Festival, and you always kept vigil at the ancestral hall for a full day and night during Qingming. How could the general treat you this way?" Shi Che stood motionless beneath the eaves, his back to me, utterly silent. The old servant tried to plead with him to stay, but I turned resolutely, my voice calm yet unwavering. The new mistress will arrive soon. Serve her well. Yu Zhan wept, reluctant to leave the mansion's nanny Qin. I choked back tears as I patted her hand. Once we've established ourselves, we'll return for them. The carriage rolled toward the dilapidated Meng residence. The doorframe was decayed, and weeds in the courtyard towered taller than a person. The creak of the door opening sounded like a lament for years of neglect. Clutching my father's keepsakes, I knelt before the ancestral hall. Tears fell like stones onto the cold blue bricks. Father, mother, your unfilial daughter trusted a faithless man and ruined our dream of seeking a marquis title. In this life, I will avenge the Meng family and kill Shirche with my own hands. In the darkness, Yu Zhan clutched me tightly. Our sobs echoed through the empty hall, filled with endless regret and resolve. Just as I knelt weeping in the Meng family shrine, a clear male voice suddenly pierced the darkness. Xiazi, is the princess consort here? Startled, Yu Zhan instantly pulled me close, her voice trembling with fear. Miss, could it be a ghost? I drew a deep breath, gripping the bone-splitting sword my father had left me, and shouted, Who is it? Honorable men don't hide in the dark. Are you Meng Xihua? The voice was like a mountain breeze, gentle yet powerful. I am Zhao Huijin. I have come to marry you. I exhaled in relief and whispered to Yu Zhan, it's Prince Ding, not a ghost. Yet my mind was filled with questions. Why would he come at midnight without lighting a single lamp? Your Highness, why did you come to marry me without lighting a lamp? I couldn't help asking. A moment of silence hung in the air before his faint rebuke reached us. Xiaoxi, why didn't you light the lamps? A young attendant nearby hurriedly explained, Your Highness, we're used to working in the dark. It's no trouble. Zhao Huijin waved his hand in the air, his tone turning stern. That is the princess. She isn't blind. If she falls and disfigures herself, I will hold you all accountable. The young attendant winked at me and muttered under his breath, even if the princess consort disfigured herself, Your Highness wouldn't see it. Before he could finish, Zhao Huijin kicked him away. Only then did I recall the Empress Dowager's decree, the wedding must take place tonight. Delay invites trouble. She feared Shirche might cause further disruption. I couldn't defy an imperial order, nor could I miss this opportunity to climb the powerful tree that would aid my revenge. Following Zhao Huijin back to the Prince Ding's residence, the wedding was hastily arranged, attended only by a few former Meng family retainers and imperial relatives. I downed 3 cups of strong liquor in quick succession, smashed the cups, and fixed the night sky with a cold, piercing gaze. Shirche, your good days are numbered. Once inside the chamber, only the 2 of us remained. I helped him undress and quietly lay down on the bed. After a long silence, his deep voice broke the darkness. Aren't you angry? Should I be? I countered. He chuckled softly, his tone casual. So, what are your plans now? I turned to face his blurred silhouette, my voice calm yet resolute. Tomorrow, I'll go to the palace to see the Empress Dowager. I'm going to the battlefield to kill Shirche. Without a moment's hesitation, he uttered a single word, good. The next morning, I awoke to find the pillow beside me empty. Following faint rustling sounds, I made my way to the study. Pushing open the door, I saw Zhao Huijin fumbling with a pile of stones. Your Highness, what are you doing? Hearing my voice, he raised his hand and handed me a cloak. Lady, the morning dew is cool. Dress warmly. Taking the cloak, I felt puzzled. You can't see. How did you know I was dressed lightly? He smiled without answering, pointing to the stones on the table. People say I love stones more than women. Look at these. I picked up a grayish-white stone, teasing him deliberately. What is this? Nitrate ore. He grasped the stone in my hand with precision, then reached for another yellow mineral. This is sulfur. Add charcoal, and you have the formula for gunpowder. My heart skipped a beat. When father attacked Bailion years ago, he'd struggled to formulate black powder. Could this age-defying friend he often mentioned in the capital be Zhao Huijin? So you were father's dear friend back then? He gave a faint smile, a tacit acknowledgement. I was young then, always tinkering with such things. You understand not only military equipment, but also poisons? I recalled the Empress Dowager's praise of him and couldn't help asking. He leaned close to my ear, his voice deep and husky. The palace is full of intrigue. One must have some means of self-defense. His warm breath brushed my ear, sending an inexplicable flutter through my heart. After preparing ourselves, we entered the palace together to see the Empress Dowager. Just as we reached the palace gates, we saw Li Wan kneeling under the scorching sun. Her lips were cracked and pale, and a pool of blood seeped from her lower body. Spotting me, she desperately grabbed the hem of my robe. "Sister Hua, save me." I sneered coldly. "Why hasn't your beloved Che come to save you?" She collapsed to the ground, unable to hold herself up. Sir Che emerged from the shadows, his face haggard. He bent down, lifted her up, and knelt directly before the Empress Dowager. "This servant is guilty. I beg the Empress Dowager to punish me." The Empress Dowager tapped her dragon-headed staff, her tone laced with scorn. "Shall I punish you with death to atone for your crimes?" Sir Che gritted his teeth. When the sovereign commands death, the subject must obey. Just then, an urgent military report arrived. Northern Liang refugees have invaded. Chaos reigns at the border. A flicker of triumph crossed Sir Che's eyes as he immediately petitioned to lead the expedition. The Empress Dowager, however, turned her gaze toward me, her eyes filled with expectation. "Princess Ding is the descendant of General Meng, born into a military family. Would you be willing to take command and lead the troops?" In the chaos, Zhao Huijin grasped my hand. The cool warmth of his palm gave me boundless courage. I immediately knelt and accepted the command. "This humble maiden is willing to lead the soldiers in battle for our country." The Empress Dowager laughed heartily. "You shall command the expedition, Sir Che as your deputy." Sir Che stared at me in shock, his gaze seething with hatred. On the day of departure, I deliberately returned to the Meng family ancestral hall. Clad in military attire, I unsheathed my crimson-plumed spear, its blade dancing like a serpent. Having not practiced in years, my breath faltered. I stumbled and fell from the horse. Zhao Huijin, seated in his wheelchair, listened intently and hurriedly had his attendant help him over. "My lady, are you all right?" I shook my head, bit my lip, and practiced dozens more strokes until a soldier's report came from outside the Meng residence. "General Meng, the hour is upon us." I swung onto my horse. The chestnut steed nuzzled my hand obediently as I urged it forward, determined to display the Meng family's might. Outside the Meng residence, Sir Che sat atop his black stallion, clad in silver armor, his gaze dark and menacing. "Meng Zhihua, where are your soldiers?" I rode alongside him and snorted coldly. "You are my soldier." Furious, he grabbed my throat, eyes red with rage. "Come home with me." I bit his wrist, the taste of blood spreading across my tongue. "General Sure, I am married to Prince Ding. Please show restraint." He shot Zhao Huijin a vicious look, his voice dripping with contempt. "A blind man?" I raised my hand and slapped him across the face, my voice booming. "Shut your mouth. He is Prince Ding, you are his subject. To defy your superior, what punishment do you deserve?" The entire army dismounted and knelt in unison. Sir Che licked the blood from the corner of his mouth and sneered coldly. "And you think you can punish me?" Rising in fury, I flicked his hairband aside with my crimson-plumed spear. "I taught you martial arts. Today, I'll teach you a lesson." After 10 exchanges, I feigned defeat. He embraced my waist in provocation, but I shoved him away, raising my military token high. "I am the commander. Sir Che is the soldier. Anyone who disobeys will be executed on the spot." The distant clatter of hooves grew louder. Father's old generals arrived with their sons and grandsons to bolster our ranks. They dismounted and knelt in unison. "General Meng, we bring our descendants to aid you. May the general be protected. We await your triumphant return." Sir Che's face darkened, finally speechless. I swept my cloak and bellowed, "Advance." The army marched in mighty procession toward the frontier. Battle banners flapped fiercely in the wind. I glanced back at Zhao Huijin's carriage, my resolve unshakable. This battle would not only subdue Beiliang but settle all grievances with time. Beyond the city gates, we camped on the long slope. Watching Zhao Huijin sitting quietly beside me, I couldn't help asking, "You needn't endure these hardships with me." He smiled gently, his voice warm. "Wherever my lady is, there I shall be." Seeing I couldn't dissuade him, I relented. During the march, Sir Che noticed my daily care for Zhao Huijin and taunted, "Meng Zhihua, stop pretending to be strong. Come back with me, and I'll even grant you the position of a concubine." I shot an arrow at the tree trunk beside him. The tip embedded itself deep into the wood as my voice turned icy. "To die with you?" He caught the flying arrow, then kicked off his feet and flew toward me. His left hand pinned me firmly to the saddle, his lips moving toward mine. Meng Jihua, he murmured, after 3 years apart, you've grown more beautiful. Just as I raised my hand to slap him, a walking stick struck his shoulder with force. The pain sent him tumbling from his horse. I leapt up, pulling Zhao Huijin into my arms. He wrapped his arms around my waist, feigning surprise. Who fell from their horse? I smiled faintly. Naturally, it was the one who didn't know his place. Che rolled in the dust, propping himself up with his injured arm and roaring, Meng Jihua, you've gone too far. I spurred my horse forward, leaving him behind, and called out loudly, Che, we'll meet again. That night, heart-wrenching screams echoed from Che's tent. Lying in bed, I asked Zhao Huijin, what did you do to him? His eyes closed, his tone calm. The cane held a bit of poison powder and some tickle powder. Couldn't stand him flirting with you. I couldn't help but laugh. This seemingly refined prince had such a childish side. I pulled back the covers and sat on top of him, forcing him to confess. What else? Tell me honestly. He groped for me in the darkness, like a sulking child. Nothing else. I just couldn't stand him getting handsy with you. I tried to climb off him, but he grabbed me, his voice serious. That day at the palace gate, why did you defend me? I tilted my head, pondering, then whispered softly, people have hearts made of flesh. You've treated me well, so I couldn't bear to see you humiliated. During the march, I rose daily at dawn, carrying bamboo baskets filled with Zhao Huijin's discarded stones to build my strength. At noon, I chopped wood and drew water alongside the cooks. By night, I studied military manuals by lamplight. I trained myself as rigorously as I had once been trained, determined to make up for lost years by working through the night. After a month's march, we reached the northern Liang border. Displaced people were everywhere, panic gripping the populace. I dispatched several youths disguised as refugees to infiltrate the area. Before they left, Zhao Huijin held me back. Northern Liang's invasion this time is no simple matter. Che must have colluded with them long ago. Be extremely cautious. I'll hold the rear. I squeezed his hand and nodded. Changing into ragged clothes with the youths, we blended into the refugees. As the crowd surged into a dark alley, several sword-wielding martial artists burst forth. A burly man led them into the county office, leaving a trail of blood in his wake, his build unmistakably Northern Liang. Holding my breath, I led the boy deeper inside. Within the prefectural office, Che stood clad in black, his almond-shaped eyes half-closed, conversing with a familiar figure, Nunu Halley. It's been a long time. Emerging from the darkness was none other than the former prince of Beiliang. He hadn't died. Had you not leaked Meng Yuanshan's battle plans back then, how could Beiliang have regained its strength? Nunu Halley laughed, his tone dripping with scorn. Che chuckled softly, your feigned surrender paved my path to power. But now Meng Jihua has joined the battlefield. Her father commands great prestige in the army. She comes with ill intent. She once shielded me from an arrow for your sake. Their bond runs deep. Could you truly bring yourself to kill her? Nunu Halley quipped. Che glared. Don't bring up the past. She's changed completely now. When we set the camp ablaze tomorrow, do not harm her. I will deal with her personally. We quietly retreated back to the camp. Zhao Huijin was already waiting in the commander's tent. I relayed everything I had seen and heard, but he merely smiled calmly. I've made preparations long ago. He pointed to the tent and explained, this is made of graphene. It's heat-resistant and non-flammable. The following night, the fire ignited as expected, lighting up the night sky. Che and Nunu Halley, thinking we had perished in the flames, were reveling in their triumph. Then, dressed in crimson, I rode out on a white steed, coldly surveying them. Didn't expect that, did you? We're unscathed. I waved for the youth to drag out a large drum. Yuzhan handed me the drumsticks, and I began to beat it right before Che's eyes. The drum's thunderous sound reverberated through the valley. General don't you remember this tune? His face turned ashen, and he murmured, drunk on flowers is best by day, drunk on snow is best by night. Love is hardest to sustain, hence the deeply affectionate are often mistaken for the cold-hearted. Holding the bone-splitting sword, I slashed the drumhead. Do you know whose skin this beauty drum is made of? It's your own flesh and blood, Li Wan. The Empress Dowager long ago uncovered she was a fake princess, skinned and boned to craft this drum. I charged forward, sword raised. You colluded with Bai Liang, betraying your master for glory. Today I avenge my father, you shall die without a burial place. Amidst the torrential downpour, Che and I fought to the death. He finally collapsed, gravely wounded, his gaze as clear as when we first met, Ji Hua. If there is a next life, I will not betray you. I sliced out his tongue with a single stroke, coldly declaring, you have no next life. Then I ripped out his heart and flayed his skin, my hands drenched in blood. Only when Zhao Huijin ordered men to drag me away from the pile of corpses did I release his eyeball, still clutched in my hand. Zhao Huijin and I remained in Beiliang for 3 months. He busied himself evacuating refugees and settling displaced people, while I eradicated remnant forces to restore peace to this land. Li Wan's beauty drum had long since shattered. I ordered my attendants to skin Che and fashion a new drum from his hide. Each evening, I would sit before it, gazing at the distant mountains, paying tribute to the loyal souls of the entire Meng family. On the first day of spring, the weather was exceptionally clear. I told Zhao Huijin, I wish to climb the mountain. He set aside his gunpowder research and immediately ordered servants to prepare. Standing atop the mountain, letting the wind caress my face, I turned to find Zhao Huijin leaning on his cane behind me. Sunlight bathed his exquisitely handsome features, radiating warmth and tenderness. I rose onto my tiptoes and pressed a soft kiss to his lips. He smiled, wrapping his arms around me. My lady, the Empress Dowager longs for a grandchild. I snuggled into his embrace and teased, then you'd better work hard tonight. He bent down to kiss the top of my head, reaching to touch my face. I shyly dodged his hand, a hint of embarrassment in my voice, the frost and wind of the frontier left scars on my face. I'm not pretty anymore. He paused, then shook his head with a smile. My eyes cannot see, but in my heart, you are forever the most beautiful. I took his hand and led him to the drum, whispering, this is the past. It must end. I raised my foot and kicked the drumhead violently, watching it tumble down the cliff with shards of stone, kicking up a cloud of dust. Che, this is your just end, shattered to pieces, doomed to eternal torment. Back in the capital, peach blossoms bloomed along Vermilion Bird Street. Whispers about my scarred face drifted through the crowd. Rain's Han, enraged, wanted to confront them, but I stopped him. Don't stoop to their level. At the palace gates, the Empress Dowager awaited, her hands clasping mine as tears streamed down her aged face. Huar, you've endured so much. A grand banquet celebrated our victory within the palace walls, where every court official treated me with utmost reverence. Late that night, back at the mansion, I sat beside the bed while Zhao Huijin, his arm propped on a stone, leaned against the headboard. I leaned closer, intending to loosen his clothes, but he suddenly pressed my hand down, his voice hoarse, your face. I braced for his rejection, my heart twisting with sorrow. Instead, he lowered his head and kissed the scar on my face tenderly, his touch so gentle it seemed he feared shattering me. Huar, this is your badge of honor. My heart aches for you. That night, he was exceptionally tender. Candlelight flickered outside the window, casting shadows of our entwined forms. From that day forward, 2 formidable warriors became renowned throughout the capital. One was Meng Jihua, the daughter of the Meng clan, known as the ghost-faced king of hell, whose very presence struck terror into enemy ranks. The other was the imperial uncle, Huijin, blind in sight but sharp in mind, a master of unconventional tactics and strategic formations, whose iron tree silver flower maneuvers shattered countless foes. The world marveled at this deeply devoted couple, who stood shoulder to shoulder defending their homeland, their story becoming an eternal legend. But I knew this was all bought with the blood and tears of a past life. For the rest of our days, Zhao Huijin and I would live as our true selves, leaving no regrets.